Stathopoulos and Josh Phegan come together in an incredible podcast, Grow, Scale, Master.
An energetic approach to drive progress, master skills, build strengths and put the strategy back into rapid business and personal success.
Backed by real-world experience in rapid scaling to playing the long-term game of business, it's the story of all the lessons learned on the journey to mastery.
Be inspired, renew your energy and chase the future with Grow, Scale, Master.
Con, today's going to be a big one. We are going to go all out about getting to clarity. And when I think about getting to clarity, you know, if you're lost in the confusion, and I think it was Richard Flint that was at ARIC one year and he said, like, you're either adding to the confusion or you're building towards the clarity.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, great. Well, then let's actually build towards the clarity. So I want you to think about it. Whenever I go into a training room, one of the things I'll do, particularly if I'm in a small format room, is I'll say, hey guys, what would you love to learn today? And like literally, if there was a word that would come up, like literally almost 100% of the time.
Clarity?
No, structure.
Oh my gosh.
So can you tell me what is structure? Like, how does that work?
Yeah. What is structure?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. What are we talking about? Like what part of structure?
Well, when you think about getting to clarity,
you know what?
It sounds like you're confused.
I'm not clear at all. I tell you what, I went through a fuzzy year in 2024.
Wow.
Okay. So I want to talk about that, right?
Okay.
So in terms of clarity about what we were doing as an organisation, yes, very clear on my relationships, personal and professional, yes.
Yes.
But we've gone through exponential growth.
Yes.
And I think we're so used to having that startup energy, that new business energy, that get up and go and just, you know, we can basically move mountains. And then last year we had 3 different market shifts. We had a seller's market, we had a balanced market, we had a buyer's market. You know, we had all sorts of stock shortage, all that type of stuff, too much stock, you know, clearance rates coming off, interest rates, blah, blah, blah. And I think the thing that confused me was, what's my clarity?
Yeah, sure.
And I worked it out over Christmas. The genius is in the simplicity, mate.
Mm-hmm.
How simple is your vision?
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're trying to achieve? Right? And I just broke it down into, like, for me, I know exactly where we want to go, how we're going to get there. But for us to be able to do that, I've got to be clear on the actions that I need to take.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got 3 things that I'm responsible this year for. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that doesn't fit into those 3 silos, then it becomes unclear.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Of course it does.
So it's like these blinkers are on, right?
And so I just think that, like, you know, one of the interesting ones, and we've all probably seen it, where there's that story of the professor, and the professor gets like the big jar and he puts like all the big rocks in it, and he goes to the class, hey, is it full? And they go, yeah. And then he goes in and he goes and gets some smaller rocks and he puts them in and shakes it around, and they go, is it full? And they go, well, yeah. And then he goes, okay, great. And so then he goes and gets some pebbles and some sand and he puts that in and go, is it full? And they go, yeah. And then he then like literally then goes and puts some water in and he goes, and so is it full now? And they go, well, yeah. And so that's like that whole conversation when you start to think about what are your big rocks and what are your little rocks. Yeah. Is it that simple to say, okay, you know, health is a big rock, relationships are a big rock. If you're lucky enough to have a family, that's definitely a big rock. If you're in a position that you've got a partner, that's a big rock. Like, you know, these things are important. And then some smaller rocks might be, okay, great, you know, some of the adventures, some of the holidays, some of the other things that you're going to do to coexist in all of those environments and those communities. And then smaller rock again might be then, okay, great, about what you're doing to improve your running skill or your CrossFit skill like you, or, you know, any of those types of things. Like, that's actually really important to get that right. And so is it that simple that people have just not maybe spent some time to go, hey, what's actually important to me, like to edit frequently, to get really clear about what the big rocks are and what the small rocks are.
You can make it more complex if you want.
Yeah.
But mate, the genius is in the simplicity.
Right.
So seriously, it is. Because there are so many things, mate. I had notes and reminders and Trello boards and this of everything that we could possibly do. And then I just said, they're all really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that we must do?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm an agent, right,
Mm-hmm.
what must I do? I must prospect every day.
Mm-hmm.
I must list property.
Mm-hmm.
I must sell property.
Mm-hmm.
That is basically it. Prospect, list, and sell.
Yeah.
Everything else then is superfluous.
Yes.
So you've either got a strategy or you've got a tactic.
Yes.
So the strategy is meet more people, list more property, sell more property, and then everything else is a tactic. It's exactly the same in life.
So you've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
How do you get it all done?
I have an incredible team that I outsource excellence to, right? I don't bite off. Let me rephrase that. I bite off more than I can chew in terms of aspiration and vision and chasing opportunity.
Sure.
But I'm no longer biting off more than I can chew on a day-to-day basis, because if I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do this, I'm 100% here.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Then the third thing is I've reduced it down to the ridiculous. What are the actual levers for growth? And that's what I'll focus on. Everything else is a distraction.
So in getting it all done, I just have a quick look at like scheduling unscheduled time now. Being in a position that I start thinking about how do I perform better using voice notes. Being in a position that I can do some really good quality summaries. Using technology to an advantage. So I've got like a way to take notes that are quick. Really looking at a calendar and saying, hey, I'm going to be on a plane, so that's useful. So I can use that for that. But don't be doing that there. So like I might actually go for a motorbike ride on a Saturday now because the Sunday is the day where I'm going to be doing the flight. So that makes a lot more sense to actually have a full day out and a day that's already disrupted, just disrupt it all. So there's some interesting conversations on that. There is also a conversation around like commitment creep because like you said yes to a lot of things.
I did.
How important is it to learn? This is not therapy, mate.
Oh, sorry. I was just looking into your eyes and I went, oh my God, why are you looking into my soul?
So but with commitment creep, how do you wind that back?
You just say no, mate. I'm telling you, I said yes to so many things I should have said no to last year. Professionally and personally. And now it's just like, no. It's okay to say no. Like, for example, I've got this someone from the UK, I think you put me onto it with someone. He's like, mate, can we get on a Zoom and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no. But you can call me at 7 o'clock in the morning on Monday when I'm driving to work. And I'm happy to sit in traffic and talk to you. No problems. But I'm not going to stay up at 10 o'clock at night to have a Zoom with you. Not because I don't want to help you. I'm just trying to redesign the game that I'm trying to win.
And this is the interesting thing is about like, sometimes life just gets away on you. One little thing was good at the time, but then all of a sudden another little thing comes in and now all of a sudden it's competing because a bigger opportunity comes by. And that was like an overscheduled life. And so that was the thing that I found is that like, how do I open up 20% of my calendar to allow more capability so when something happens that then I can do it?
You scheduled unscheduled time.
I did schedule.
You put it into your calendar. I've seen it. It's a block, right? So that's really how simple it can be. I think it's prioritizing what's really important to you, Josh.
And I would say this to you, like, so when I go to do an event, I'll come off stage and I'll ring Kylie and I'll say, hey, Kylie, how are you? And we'll talk about the day. And one of the first questions that she always asks, she goes, how'd it go today? And I go, yeah, it was really good. Or if I come off stage, she goes, how'd it go today? Oh, there's a few things that we hit miss. The room was hot, it was muggy, the catering was a bit off, the projectors weren't working, there was no whiteboard, like whatever it might be. And often she'll then say, okay, great, and do you want to go back? And I'm like, what, is that an option? And she's like, well, yeah. She goes, if you don't like what's actually going on, you don't actually have to go back. And I was just like, oh, wow, that's pretty full on. And we haven't done it a lot, but over the course of the years, we have actually said, hey, look, that's probably just not for us. And that might be, down to something like catering, or it might be down to the conversation of how they want to run the event, or maybe that we don't feel the briefing's right, or maybe we're a bit of an ideological conflict with where they're at in terms of their stage of business, or maybe we're just not the right provider at that point. Very rare that would happen because we're super adaptable and agile. But what I learned very quickly is that literally, if it's not meeting the requirements on what you need to be able to go to perform at your best, then you're then suboptimal as a performer.
I completely agree.
And I love that whole conversation. I think that Tony Schwartz had that best in the Powerful Engagement, is he goes, just be careful because every single time that you're making choices that are getting you to be suboptimal as a performer, that's exactly what you are. So, and I think about it as an agent, if you're taking on the wrong type of property or an overpriced property or an expired listing or whatever, right? That might be suboptimal if you don't get it right. That requirement then is that like the energy is the most scarcest thing, that like when my brain is flowing and the ideas are there and I've got the creativity, I got to run with it. So what we also look at in terms of getting towards clarity is that we went through the year, and Kylie's amazing at this. She goes, I'm going to go and have a look at it. These are all the points where you were super stressed.
Oh, so she noted those times.
She has a stress meter. And I was like, wow. And the interesting thing about that, and that was true, she said, literally, she goes, you know how I'm going to do it? I go, what's that? She goes, I'm going to look at all the points where you got sick and go back 2 weeks before.
Right.
And I was like,
look at your schedule, whether you're flying,
what was happening,
whatever.
But here's the key thing. So we would do Blueprint, for example, which is exceptional. It's my favorite part of the year. But I also decided to then get Firms of the Future out at the same time. So like 16,000 words there. And at the same time, I'm doing preparation for Blueprint. And she goes, you're not going to do that anymore. So this year,
she actually got coming early.
Well, she got me to write it in January.
Oh, you've already done it?
Actually here.
Is that the one I was looking at?
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to steal it.
No, you're not allowed to. But the basic idea is that Firms of the Future for 2025 is already done, and it will be released in the first week of March.
That's clever, mate.
But what we actually do is we just say, hey, do we actually really need to do that then? It's an important piece of work, but where does it need to sit there? No, not really. And in January, it's actually been really good because it's got my brain spinning earlier and faster, and a whole range of other things have actually happened. So I think that like the energy management has got to be tied to the work. And, David Allen actually did in Getting Things Done. It was a really fantastic idea where he'd say, where are you? What tools do you have?
Yeah.
What do you have the energy to do? And what can you do?
Yep.
And so at an airport, I'm not going to write a proposal if I'm waiting for my baggage.
Correct.
But I can make a quick call.
Correct.
If I'm driving the car.
Send an audio message or something.
Sure, if I'm driving the car, I can definitely make a call, but I'm not going to write a proposal.
Yeah.
If I'm at home, though, I can definitely write the daily email.
Yeah.
And I can definitely be in a position I could do a proposal and I could do a one-on-one and a face-to-face. So
very true.
Learning about contextual awareness of how that thing actually happens. So in getting towards clarity, decide what you want, go for it. And, one of the easiest ones was probably out of The Matrix, right? It was my favorite movie because red pill, blue pill. Okay, great. So, Con, do you want to stay living in the same house you're in now for the rest of your life? Yes or no?
Yep.
You do?
No.
He just said
sorry.
yes.
No.
Emily, we got him. But this is that basic idea. So do you want to stay living in the same house that you're in now for the rest of your life? Okay, so that's a no. And would you like to still stay in Sydney for the rest of your life? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, great. And would you like to be in a situation that you'd have a house that has a little bit more land or less land?
Probably less land as I get older.
Okay, so like all of these things start coming in, and then before you know it, now we've got some decisions and some choices.
Yeah.
So what you've got to start to think about is that sometimes either this or that is a great game to play to actually help you to, and so you're trying to make this big decision and you're hesitating on it. Okay, great. Do you want to drive the same car that you've got for the rest of your life?
No.
Okay, great. So if that's the case, do you want to be in a position you'd like a four-wheel drive one day?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, great. And so then you just, and then before you know it, you go, okay, great. And then you start thinking very differently. So I think that to get towards clarity, it's also about learning how to build up capacity and building capacities that like, I don't have to make a decision on that right now. I can do it then.
Yeah.
And I worked out, get this, if I look at motorbikes, do you know the dates that I bought my motorbikes?
When?
The second week of August.
Oh, really? Why?
What happens in the first week of August? Blueprint.
Oh, and you're coming down off. Well, when I say coming down, you've
you are. You've just done a huge event.
Correct.
What have I also got ample amounts of time of directly after Blueprint?
What?
Time.
Time.
So guess what I do?
That's right, because you don't book anything.
So Tuesday, Wednesday, guess what? Thursday, Friday, I'm like, I might go to the dealership.
Yeah, I'm feeling better.
And so now I booked a holiday. I'm not allowed to do that.
On the bike.
Yeah, but that's a really foundational idea to learn where the curves are.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting.
Experiences that rapidly shaped you.
Con, you know what I've worked out? Every single one of your staff in your business, they want a great relationship with you, so provide it.
Yeah, pretty simple.
What's something that's shaping your view?
Something that's rapidly shaping my view is that I think for us to change the game, we must meet the stakes. And what I mean by that is we've got to turn up every day and do what what we have to do, prospect list, sell, etc. But you've got to be able to change the game at the same time. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm looking at is different industries, not particularly in sales, but like people in technology. Look at NVIDIA, what they do. There's a great 1 hour YouTube. I'll actually send it to you. About the future.
And the robot stuff?
Yeah.
I watched it.
You watched it? It's phenomenal, right? So for
I think
me...
it turned up in your feed because it was in my feed.
Oh, really? Okay, there you go.
Or the other way around.
Yeah, or the other way around. But what I'm getting to is that, for us to raise the bar and change the game, we've got to play the game, meet the stakes. So the stakes are what your buy-in is, and then we've got to be able to, evolve.
Something that's changing your view.
One thing that's really changing my view is about effort before the reward. I'm working with a client who's exceptional, very, very, very capable. But he came to me and he said, hey, recently, a bit of stress has been on, a few things have been going on. I got an extra couple of kilos, than I'd actually like. I said, okay, great. So what are you going to do about that? He goes, I'm doing the diet thing. I'm doing the exercise thing. I said, okay, great. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, what's that? He said, yeah. I said, do you still have a glass of wine each night? He goes, yeah. I said, guess what? He goes, what's that? I said, no more wine. He goes, what do you mean? I said, no more reward until you put in the effort.
Yeah.
So once you get to your ideal weight range, if that goal is important, then you can have a wine.
Yeah.
But if you're not at your ideal weight range, no wine.
Isn't that interesting? Matt Steinway's, it says it really good. If you want it, you'll do it.
Yeah. I think the basic foundational idea is that literally rewards are amazing in life.
Yeah.
But for effort.
Yeah. It's like in my parents, traditional Greeks, all cash.
Yes.
So,
I knew you were going to say this.
Costa, you want to buy a car, you got to save the money.
Yeah.
So if my first car, my second car, my third car, there was no finance.
Yes.
It was the cash, right? Because that delayed gratification, that's actually the reward, right? So I agree with that. That's awesome.
So I just think this whole idea, whatever you are, where there's ever luxury, that luxury is only allowed if you've put in the effort to get there.
So is a coffee like a reward during prospecting?
It's a luxury after you've done the full session.
After you've done the full session.
As opposed to a right, because I need to feel better. And this is that whole thing is that you got to change your view.
Yes.
So, Josh, the work's not done, so you can't do it. So every morning when I wake up, and the first hour is for me. It's for no one else. And that first hour is for me to be working on myself to get to my best.
Yeah.
And that might be a walk, it might be a run, it might be training with my PT or the gym. No, it's always something physical in the first hour.
Yes.
Because I need to work my body to be able to perform at its best. And if you think about that, if knowledge is the power and practice is the key, the body is the vehicle, but that knowledge is the power. So you got to start really thinking more clearly that you must make sure that you're making the vehicle work in order for it to perform at its best. Now, I know that all day, respectfully, people are going to suck energy from me all day. So I must spend that first hour in that energy renewal.
Yeah, I like that.
In thinking about where my mind needs to be, where my body needs to be, feeling the muscles, feeling the movement.
Yeah.
Really being in a position that I'm getting that position, finding a playlist that inspires and motivates. So then for the rest of the day, you can be at your best.
Yeah.